YouTube of Billy. Had a proud papa moment. Well, I guess pride's a sin, so a well-pleased papa moment with my daughter last night. So, you know, she's in 4th grade. She's got to read. You know, she's reading more challenging books and everything. She brought home a book. It was like a, you know, Greek mythology, which, you know, I'm fine with. You got to learn a little bit of Greek mythology. This one was about Apollo and something. Apollo and the Olympians, maybe. But anyway, it was about the Greek god Apollo, and I guess some of the things that he did. And my wife said that she looked at the book, and at first she was like, I don't know about this. And then my daughter was saying, I think it's okay. And we've taught her, we have told her, we've taught her kind of what's correct and what's not correct, and, you know, things to look for. And if she doesn't feel comfortable reading a book, or if she thinks it's inappropriate, to judge for herself and to make that decision herself. Now, there are things that we, you know, make sure of. But this was one of those times where it was like, okay, it's a school book. It's from the school library. And I'm like, well, I know Greek mythology can kind of, you know, who knows, at times. But this is a kid's book, right? Right. Yeah, right. So she was reading it. She came out and said, I don't think this book is appropriate for me. It's like, oh, okay, why not? Because she came across this part where Apollo, who's the hero, got in an argument with a satyr, you know, half man, half goat, and ended up skinning him, and it showed him skinning him. It wasn't like super gory, but definitely showed the silhouette. It showed, you know, some blood. And I was like, ooh. And that's the part where she said, I shouldn't be reading this. That was pretty violent. I was like, okay, I agree. If you feel that way, don't read it. Take it back to school. Get another book. And then my wife and I were talking. The very next page was a story of Apollo, and I forget this kid's name, because the illustration make it look like a kid, and Apollo's this, you know, grown man, Greek god. And they fell in love, but the wind, there's a directional wind, east wind, west wind, something like that, was jealous because it was in love with Apollo. So it ended up, you know, showing all these things that Apollo and this young boy were doing, and, you know, playing around, racing, doing different things, wrestling. Well, then the wind got jealous and killed this boy, and it shows Apollo holding, you know, the boy, you know, lips close to touching, blood dripping down the boy's arm. And it talks about how Apollo held his beloved. I was like, do what? This is a 4th grade recommended book. And I'm like, well, I'm very glad she decided before that page that this book wasn't for her. 4th freaking grade. I don't want her to see things like that. I don't want her to question things like that. I know it's going to happen, but not yet. Not when she's 9 freaking years old. And, you know, leftists and wokies may say, oh, but you're just being a bigot, you're denying, blah, blah, blah. What if she just, you know, identifies whatever way? No, She's a girl. We have taught her, you are a daughter of God. That is her label. She doesn't need a label. It's like these kids that have no identity. They're searching for an identity. That's why they grasp a hold of anything that seems popular. My daughter is on the back of the motorcycle, and she just pointed out that was the house from the movie, The House with the Clock in the Walls. So, I'm pleased with her decision to make that decision not to read that book. I'm glad she made that decision before she got to the gay stuff with Apollo and a young boy. But it's just sickening that these are the things that these authors want to push in front of children. Another thing we got from the school was a parent permission form about like a sexual abuse education or whatever. Sexual abuse education, I think it's what it was. Excuse me. Ouch. That hurt. And at first I was like, oh, what? Then I was like, oh, well, you know what? My wife looked into it. She's had friends that looked into it too, and I trust her judgment. She says it appears to be age appropriate, you know, good touch, bad touch type things, which I'm okay with. But what I'm not okay with is if they want to do like pronoun training or, you know, gender explorative, exploring genders. That ain't cool. And as a parent, I know that I would want to know what's included, and I would stand up and say absolutely not. This is not good for kids. Even kids with diagnosable gender dysphoria. 9 out of 10 of them, you leave them alone, you do not influence them anyway, like either way, and it resolves. By the time, you know, puberty is in its throes, and they've worked their way, their hormones have balanced out, they've figured it out. Oh, that was just a phase. But now, no. If a 2-year-old boy puts on, you know, girl slippers, oh, he identifies, we need to transition him. That's child abuse. So I'm raising my kids to think for themselves, you know, teach them correct principles, and they will govern themselves. Now, I still am the parent, and so I need to be responsible and be vigilant and diligent about what they see, what they read, what they hear. But I know that I'm not going to be there at school. I'm not going to be there all the time. And so I want them to be able to make those decisions on their own. Saying, this isn't, I don't feel right about this. This is not truth. This is not who I am. So, that's what you got to do. You got to teach your kids correct principles. You've got to help them to know right from wrong and have the courage to stand up for for those decisions. Am I doing it right? I don't know. We'll have to see. But I know what's true. I know that God made men and women, boys and girls, for a divine purpose. The gender is essential for God's eternal plan. And if kids knew who they were, if they If they weren't searching for an identity, I strongly doubt we would have all of this stuff in the news. Gender identity crisis. Just be excellent to each other. It's like I'm gonna get stuck by a train. Tuba Billy, signing out. God be with you till we meet again.